proper. But somebody needs to log on back there. Check the Lawrence PD Twitter account, because those guys are actually hilarious as we come through here. Sean, this is the second time KU has had a big second half. Elite Eight, they came out and just ran roughshod over Miami. And it seems to me that this was sort of Bill Self, who says he's not a great orator, speech giver, that this was very much like a hockey coach, which is just, we just need to work harder and play harder and have more energy. This was not X's and O's in either of those cases. You agree?
Yeah, I do. I think in the first half, though, they kind of were forcing the issue. I don't think that we saw the same kind of maturity we saw out of Kansas in the semifinals against Villanova, where they made you have to defend multiple sides. In the first half of this game, I thought that they just kind of settled and they kind of rushed things a little bit. They got off that 7-0 start, and I think they were like, man, this is going to be easy. We're going to find everything we want. And that was not the case, because Carolina, after that first time out in the first half, buckled up and was tough and was physical, and more physical than the Kansas Jayhawks the entire first half. Brady Manick was outstanding. They protected the paint. They loaded to the paint. They didn't allow them to get any clean looks in the inside. What opens that up in the second half is when it starts at the defensive end of the floor. And that's where I thought Kansas really started to turn up their energy level. The offense, it's easy to flow with energy when the energy is spilling over because you're creating turnovers and you're in the open floor and you're in transition, which is where this Kansas Jayhawks team has always thrived. And it's where they thrived once again tonight here in the second half. I was really impressed. You know, this is a mature team. This is an older team. And we hear college coaches say this all the time. Get old and stay old. Well, this was a very old team, and I've talked about this with Ochai Agbaji, too, over the course of the season. You know, we so often want to rush kids out of college and get them to the next level, and I understand that. But you go to a track meet, there's the 100 meters, and that's the sprint. That's the sprint of Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith, and then there's like the mile, the 2 mile. Well, that's Ochai Agbaji. It took him time. That's the Buddy Hields of the world that we saw back at Oklahoma. And look at the season that Ochai Agbaji just put together. He was a first-team All-American. He's going to cap this thing off as a national champion for the Kansas Jayhawks. And he ran his own race. And he's going to end up being in the NBA. But he ran his own race. And I think that's important for all fans of college basketball and beyond. We are so quick, instant gratification of how quick can you get to that next step. Sometimes that journey comes at different paces and different speeds. And because at Kansas this year, they didn't rush it. They got guys that were patient along their road and along their path. They're national champions. And listen, if there was a tournament in 2020, this Kansas Jayhawks team might have been national champions as well that year. The Big 12 has been the best conference in college basketball. They just went back-to-back national champions. Baylor a year ago, Kansas tonight.
All right, you brought the name up, Baylor. North Carolina had them by 25, and they got a little sideways when they got pressure. Like, that had to come up with Bill Self and say, listen, these guys have coughed up 25. They can cough up 15.
Yeah, I mean, look, that game was a little different because Manick went out with the flagrant foul, so he got ejected out of the game, and I think that was when the turning point really happened. But I think if there's one thing you would take away from that, and I'm sure it was brought up at halftime, was that they got sped up. And when they got sped up, their guards got loose with the ball. Their decision-making started to break down a little bit. And you saw that happen just as it did against Baylor here tonight in this game against Kansas. Kansas turned up the pressure at the defensive end of the floor. They sped up this game in the first 4, first 6, first 8, and then it just kept going. Now, credit to North Carolina. Like, we haven't talked anything about Hubert Davis yet in this team. But credit to them that there was a moment in the second half where you're sitting there going, man, this might be a complete flip of the script, and we could be looking at a 10-point Kansas win, 12-point Kansas win. Carolina did an excellent job fighting back, trying to play through whether it was injuries. Armando Bacot and his performance tonight, even in a loss, is huge. But just so amazing to think about in a national title game that you can be down 15 points and come out in a blink of an eye, flip that script. And I do think that what your question was that initially started this rant by me, which was that Baylor game, I do think that plays into it. But again, it plays into it because the defense is able to beat up the offense, and that impacts the quality of possession, the quality of play for North Carolina, and we saw them get loose with the ball tonight. And when they got loose with it, Kansas was more than capable of picking it up and taking it to the other end.
You saw the graphic there. It's the first time in 161 games that Carolina has lost a game when they led by 15 or more at half. It's the worst run you can make in the tournament if you want to go 5-1 is not the tournament record you want, because then you know you lost that game. And yet from where Hubert Davis and his team was, which is bubble in the last 2 or 3 weeks, to where they came, what was the single biggest difference in that team that led them to this game tonight?
Effort. I mean, it really was effort. Reese Davis and I were talking about this earlier today. He goes back to that Miami game when Miami just absolutely throttled North Carolina. And Hubert Davis was talking about, I'm trying to get my kids to play hard. And then it clicked, and they did. And they started to believe, and they started to play hard. And you look at the way that this team played down the stretch. They deserve to be here. The performance that we saw on Saturday for North Carolina to not only knock off Coach K in his final home game, but then to finish his career off at the Final Four. Caleb Love in the tournament that he had, the huge second halves, and sprained his ankle in tonight's game, fought through it. Armando Bacot sprained ankle, fought through it. Just the heart of this team is an embodiment of its head coach and the leadership that you have on the sideline at North Carolina. We always say it's hard to replace a legend. Hubert Davis made it look easy. And he never wavered in the support of his team and the belief that his team could accomplish something special. And certainly they put themselves in a position here tonight to win a national championship. Even on the final play, I believe it was for Brady Manick, who unfortunately stumbled after he set the down screen. He stumbled as he was trying to get to the three-point line on the opposite side. I believe that was going to be a quick ball reversal for Manick to try to knock down the game-tying shot and to force it into overtime. But he fell to the floor, and that threw off the timing and the rhythm and allowed the defense to recover before that pass could be made, and they took a contested three-point shot. But the adjustments that were made and the passion in which Hubert Davis coaches with, I think is a positive sign for Carolina, not just now, but moving forward in the ACC, that in particular is going through a great deal of change right now. When you look at the fact that Roy Williams retired last year, you've got Coach K obviously retiring this year, and then you go beyond that and you look at some of the other coaches in that conference that are getting up in age. And in a very short period of time, you're going to have a ton of turnover in the ACC. Who are going to be the new leaders that are going to lead in that conference and carry that torch, that mantle of we are a true blue blood and a national power. And that's what Hubert Davis, I think, has already established in year one. And I think if you're a Carolina fan, yeah, the disappointment is real. It should be real. Nobody wants to finish in second place, I promise you that. But this run that this team had sent a message about where this program is headed and where it's going under his leadership. And I think that's good not only for Carolina, but also good for the ACC.
Pictures of celebration, Kansas City and in Lawrence as well. You touched on RD, Reese Davis, along with Jay Billis, Fawn, Seth Greenberg. They'll be coming up here momentarily. Sean, give me this one, because they have the seating. I'm not so sure after this whole 3-week ordeal, with a tip of the hat to Gonzaga and the other number ones, I'm not so sure the best team didn't win the tournament. I feel like that's probably correct.
Well, if the Big 12 is the best conference in the country, they shared the regular season title. They won the conference tournament. It's the 9th time that Bill Self's team has been able to accomplish that. And then they capped it off with a national championship. I think it's pretty hard to dispute that at this point in time based on how this team played. And listen, here's the other thing, too. We talk about Remy Martin. Everybody talks about the transfer portal, and we say, oh, it's a negative thing for college basketball. Don't tell Remy Martin that. It's a great thing for him. I mean, he left Arizona State, and the reason why you leave Arizona State is because you want to go try to compete and win a national championship this year. And he found a location and a spot where he thought he could impact the team. He started his year as the Big 12 preseason player of the year. He struggled. He struggled with defense. He struggled with finding his way in the system. And then he got hurt. And then he was limited. And he didn't score in double figures for like 15, 17 games until we got to the Big 12 tournament, and he kind of turned it back on. So credit for his maturity of understanding and watching during that period of time when he was not playing of, okay, how do I fit into this team? How do I help this team win? And I think for a lot of people in our profession and a lot of the guys in the analysts, and I'm sure the guys on Game Day will tell you the same thing, the belief in who Kansas was, because let's not forget Kansas in the SEC Big 12 Challenge getting throttled by Kentucky at home. And everybody going, wait, hold on, is this team really national championship good? versus the Kansas that we saw down the stretch of the season and how much better they got because Remy Martin provided a spark and the ability to shoot off the bounce.
Which is the idea, isn't it? Let's be at our best at the end of the year, and everybody's going to have a hiccup. It's hard to win all your games as you go through, especially in that